lot of people I met, people evacuated from Pripyat when they were adults, when they had their job, when they had their life in this perfect city. They still have this tragedy of losing their home. This is a place where you can't come back. Now you can do it just with the tour and it's destroyed.
Welcome to My Nuclear Life. I'm Shelley Lesher. Today, we're going in a bit of a different direction. Since Russia invaded Ukraine in March, I have been continuously asked about Chernobyl. Not just what was happening at the plant, but what it was like to visit. When my partner and I visited back in 2017, I researched extensively for the right tour company to take us inside and found ChernobylX. We were very happy with our choice. Since then, we've been receiving emails from them keeping us updated on what's happening in the zone. So instead of me giving you an update on what's going on inside the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, I have two experts. Dominik is the founder of ChernobylX, and Lara is the lead tour guide. They share their experiences and provide us with updates inside Ukraine. I hope you enjoy. I'm interested from you, especially Laura, because you're in Ukraine. What kind of impact did the disaster have on the people in Ukraine? Like, what was it like growing up in kind of the shadow of the Chernobyl disaster?
Of course, it was a great impact on people, especially 36, 37 years ago, because you know that about 350,000 people were evacuated from that area, and then about 600,000 people participated in eliminating the consequences of this disaster. All were more or less contaminated. Some data of researchers say that at least 100,000 people were contaminated in this area. Of course, I believe more. Even nowadays, in all these years, still people in Ukraine feel really afraid when they hear the word Chernobyl or the word radiation. Because some of them really had sad stories about their relatives or friends who were in that area and been evacuated, or people who really participated there in cleaning up operations, and some stories about their health, or some of them were fatal, of course, and people passed away. A lot of liquidators who were there have already passed away, as far as we know. That's why still it's a tragedy in minds and in hearts of people here in Ukraine. And I would say that old generation prefers to forget this tragedy. But young people, especially people who didn't see USSR with their eyes, who were born after 1991, they want to know more. They really are passionate, they are curious. Of course, it's also influence of computer games, plenty of videos of now TV series and other information, but they never felt this atmosphere of Soviet Union. That's why they want to go to this place which stuck on time, and they are curious to know more details about this accident. What really happened, what was done to stop this danger. Even nowadays, when again this power plant was invaded by Russian troops, everyone started to talk about it. It's again on the scene, it's again like one of the main points. At least it used to be in February and March, till Russian invaders left that area. So now it's really interest. I would say interest drives people to come to the exclusion zone and to get more information and to see everything with their eyes.
How do the older generations feel about this influx of young kind of tourists coming to visit the zone?
Not everyone understands them, as from what I've seen. Sometimes older people say, oh, why do you need to go there? Like, don't do it. It still can be dangerous. So they have some kind of prejudice about it. But not everyone. Some old people also open-minded and also sometimes want to come. In general, I should say that after COVID, when Ukrainian people were stopped from traveling abroad, it brought us more of Ukrainian tourists of different ages, because people started to travel more in their country. It's different, but not always negative. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add to this wonderful question that my experience also with the elderly people from Ukraine was just as Lara described, and I felt that they are welcoming the people who are coming there as foreigners, because this way they can have the feel of of a foreign country, because most of them never traveled outside of the Soviet Union or nor even Ukraine, and this way we are bringing people from, I don't know, Germany, from Netherlands, from the US, from Slovakia, Czech Republic, from all around the world to their houses. They can have a real discussion thanks to thanks to the guide who is interpreting all the time. So I have, for example, there is one old man living in Chernobyl city, Mikhail Pavlovich, who actually remembers World War II, and he was injured as when he was, I think, 6 years old, when a German fighter jet, was shooting at the boat that they were evacuated, and he until now his leg is not okay. So for example, we know we cannot bring German tourists to him because he would never talk to them. He would be just go away. So there are like really very sensitive things, and we should be very careful also with picking the people who we are taking the foreigners to, because not all of the elderly people can be so open-minded or can understand why we are coming. This is not just an attraction for your selfies or for hunting ghosts or whatever, but this is about really listening to their stories, learning the lesson for the younger generation, and they are pleased to share it.
So what is the lesson?
So I think that the lesson for an ordinary tourist is actually how much we have now in our lives, how much we don't really appreciate the very simple things like coming back home, having a warm bed, having electricity. Just imagine, Pripyat was the state-of-the-art city of the Soviet Union. Everybody wanted to live there because it was, above average in everything. You were having plenty of all the goods that were lacking in Soviet Union. And out of a sudden, in just few moments, everything was gone. And actually, you were leaving the city in 3 hours and never coming back, leaving everything behind. Even families got split, just like that. And I think when listening to the stories, what happened, not just the accident itself, but also the evacuation and what happened after that, that's a big lesson. And I always come back from Chernobyl so thankful for what I have, for having a shelter, for having a family, for living in kind of like peace times, I would say, or not really in these times, I would say, but anyway. So that's, I would say, the underlying lesson for an ordinary tourist.
And I think that's, when I went on the tour, I think that's what I brought out of it. I mean, it was really interesting to see Pripyat the way it was, kind of like overrun with nature. But I was also very careful as I was in Kyiv, and people were not to be really excited about going to Chernobyl, because I recognized that, the hotels and the people I was around and the cab drivers perhaps were not as excited to have Chernobyl in their backyard as I was. So I think it is, as a tourist, to be aware of your surroundings.
That's a great attitude. Wow. Big respect.
So Dominik, when did you start ChernobylX, and why did you see this niche in the market, or how did this come about?
Oh, I would say it started very innocent back in 2008 when I was coming to the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone as a tourist. And I was so caught by the place and fascinated by the history and lessons it provided for the mankind. And then for me personally, that my biggest wish was just to come back, and to come back as soon as possible. So, and basically the cheapest way at that time was to gather a group and bring my friends or friends of their friends for a couple of days to Chernobyl. And this is how we started, to run the tours and having a website and stuff like that. I was, guiding, or I was having a guide and I was the interpreter or whatever, and this is how I got deeper and deeper into the story, especially with people who were living in Pripyat or in exclusion zone, and I could talk to them and I could, get their stories, and make a ton of notes and then putting them into kind of like my storytelling in the tour. And this was back in 2008, and in 2019, if everything would be okay, I would say without Corona or without the war, would still be the largest tour provider for Chernobyl power plant in the world with ChernobylX. Not the largest tour provider to Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, because we don't do a lot of these fast one-day tours. We rather go down, into the quality and more into depth. So, and we love it this way. We started to not just coming there, but also I think to help the Chernobyl zone. So I would say, started this kind of sustainable tourism in Ukraine or in Chernobyl, with also giving 1% of our revenues back to the zone, to Chernobyl babushkas and liquidators, with some various charity tours, like coming, I don't know, in autumn and chopping woods for them for the winter, or, like gardening for them, or bringing just materials, food, medicaments. It became a whole ecosystem or a whole world around Chernobyl. And then we decided also to expand it to other no-go places with the same mission. So this is how we started also tours in Fukushima, or in Baikonur Cosmodrome, or Ignalina power plant in Lithuania. At the same time, I have to say that all these tours are now either stopped or they are just recovering, which is the case of Fukushima now, or Ignalina. So basically we don't know what would be the interest of the general public or the tourists for other places than Chernobyl. So we are just every now and then some people interested, and some groups going to these places.
With Chernobyl, can I just go there on my own? Can I just walk in the gate?
Very theoretically, but you would be trespassing and you would be breaking a lot of rules. So there are some adrenaline people who are going there without an official permit and with a tour guide and with all the radiation checks and stuff like that. To most of them, I feel respect, because many of them are people who love the zone as much as we do, and they are coming there to help it or to make a little piece better. But there are also a few of them who are vandals, who are destroying things because they are angry about, I don't know, Soviet Union or anything that happened there, and they are basically destroying the history for the rest of us and for our children and grandchildren. So the short answer is probably no. I mean, just as you come, but if you would be very, very cautious and finding some routes, you can get there on your own, but it's super hard. And also walking in, I don't know, toilets and stuff like that. I mean, I know we call them stalkers, these people who are going there illegally, and I wouldn't have the guts to get there on my own. So I would better go with some proven guide, with an itinerary that I know that I will like, and of course with having not just the pictures, because I mean, my first years in Chernobyl, I was taking no camera. I deliberately just no camera, because just to cherish, the atmosphere and the places. So not just for the pictures, but also for having an experience. That means also like having this human touch. So going to visit a Chernobyl babushka, or going and talk to a liquidator, or just a firefighter, or somebody, so you can not just tell that you were there, but you were really experiencing the whole atmosphere of Chernobyl currently.
So you've mentioned a couple of different types of people who are in the zone. And one of them is the babushkas. So Laura, do you want to tell me who the Chernobyl babushkas are and kind of your relationship with them?
Yeah, sure. When people were evacuated from the exclusion zone, and only some liquidators or people who were there for cleaning stayed in the area, just a couple of weeks, people really missed this place and they start to try to come back. Some of them found official reason, like working for the exclusion zone or participating in this liquidation process. The others were just coming and sometimes evacuated, again coming and again evacuated. And finally, we had a few thousands of people who lived first there illegally, and then our government decided to give them a status of temporary living in the exclusion zone people. They are called something like self-settlers or resettlers, but most of them nowadays are old ladies. That's why we call them babushkas, which is like a granny in English. But there are a few dedushkas, a few like granddaddies among these nice people. Unfortunately, the last statistics of the exclusion zone, it's probably from the last year, tells that only 100 of these people are now in the exclusion zone. They are mostly in the 70s or sometimes in their 80s. Most of them are very happy to see people from other countries, to see travelers, to see us. As Dominik already told you, we really try to help them physically. We bring them also food or any other treats. We have an opportunity to listen to their stories. These people are really happy to share their memories with us and with the travelers, with people visiting the exclusion zone.
I think a question that most people want to know is it dangerous to go to the exclusion zone? Like, how much radiation am I going to get? Am I going to come out with a third eye or something?
Not nowadays. When you are getting into exclusion zone, you will have a special device like radiation counter or dosimeter for a personal dose of radiation, and then it will show, or later we can tell your dose. Nowadays we say approximately that it will be something like after 1 hour of flight. So it's really a small dose, as we do not go to really dangerous places. We have our checked for radiation routes. We do not bring you to danger, of course. And also we always provide our people, our travelers, with Geiger counters, and they can monitor the situation in the exclusion zone. They can be aware of radiation level all the time. So not everywhere it's higher than in Kiev or than in other places in the world. Just sometimes we come to so-called hot spot, radioactive spots where the radiation is a little bit high. I would say it's for our travelers to believe that this place is radioactive, and for some fans of radiation. But again, if you are with us, we absolutely guarantee that you are safe and not contaminated after this trip. Also want to mention that you will have radiation control. There's like special gates to check your clothes for and your body for radioactive particles when you leave sub-zone or the zone in general, not to bring anything.
Has anyone ever set those off coming out? Or going in, I should ask?
No, it's done. When we are leaving or before canteen, for example, the last year it was no one. And even maybe 2 years, no one. Once I had such an accident after rain because a guy had this, big boots were like very heavy, and some mud really got somewhere, and he had this beeping on this radiation control, but everything was, the group was scared, absolutely, they were like, oh, I saw fear in their eyes, they were like shocked because we had it before, it was 2-day tour, we had this before and it was always good, and then like, oh, we always joke that we leave this person behind. We leave him or her in the exclusion zone because, we have a lot of wild animals actually there. So this guy was shocked. Yeah, I also was a little bit, I should say, like surprised, because it happens very, very rarely. And only after our second time of cleaning, we finally managed to get rid of this radioactive particle. Yeah, a special person like on dosimeter, we call them dosimetrists. Yeah, these people responsible for radiation control also helped us and checked us additionally, so everything was fine, and the person could leave his boots. But in general, especially before we were writing to our dear travelers, please take a spare pair of boots, but mostly like we never need it.
When I was counting or making statistics, I think we counted not more than 7 cases when there was this kind of alarm going off from almost 30,000 visitors in those 13 years, and that's, I mean, it's not a lot, but it's always scary, and I mean, sooner or later it will happen. Either that will be an error. So, for example, the machine is counting the doses from the previous person and with you when you are very fast, or it's really indeed that you were catching some little particle somewhere. And I remember 2 Finnish guys, they were not able to clean the boots in the boric acid liquid that is installed there just for cleaning. And they were going barefoot home. So the first stop in Kiev was actually in a shoe shop to buy them some new shoes.
That's a small price to pay to go.
I need to say that some people, despite of this radiation control, still threw away all their clothes and boots after exclusion zone. Even nowadays, even despite all the information we are given, but this can be so afraid,
I was one of those as well. I was very cautious when going to Chernobyl. I was wearing a jockey strap with a plate from a hospital that I was just landing from the X-ray, having this lead coverage, and I was having respirators and stuff like that. So I was very cautious and, throwing the clothes away. And then I just learned, what is radiation, what is dangerous, and just play, the safe side. I'm now people are making fun of me because I have 4 kids. And 3 of them are not planned. They were not in the calendar. And we were just, and they're always saying, oh, that's because of Chernobyl. Your little guys are having these headlamps and they can find a way, Dominik, you just be careful. Don't go to Chernobyl anyway. I was like, well, there is a little bit true. Maybe if we have more time, I can tell you a story of the Canadian couple that was not able to get pregnant, and actually it happened in the night when they spent in Chernobyl. But that's a long story, so I mean, let's not go into details.
Some people, it's like unbelievable, but some people believe that they can treat some diseases if they come to Chernobyl, including cancer. Yeah, there were not so many such stories, but they are still told among our guides. Yes, someone came and wanted to come as close to the destroyed reactor as possible because he was told or something like that it can help. It can help, yeah, to treat diseases. But in general, we ask people if they have any cancer or if women pregnant not to go to Chernobyl, despite we know that it won't influence them in any case, but still we of course want to be absolutely
very careful.
Sure.
I want to move to kind of what happened back in February, which was the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And was it surprising that the troops came in through Chernobyl Exclusion Zone?
A lot of people write, I see now, and a lot of people say that it's like unbelievable, like we never expected. Probably it's because we have a power plant. It's our mutual tragedy was Russia and was Belarus. Yeah, they also had a huge impact. They also had this tragedy which was shared was maybe that stopped from this believing. We had this news from Belarus troops training or Russian troops training on our borders, on our border with Belarus, even before the new year, yes, or the end of the last year. For me, it was not a big surprise because it's the shortest way to Kiev. And that area is border with Belarus, yeah, border with Belarus and not with Russia. Probably also this, yeah, that one more country will be involved. stopped people from believing. We were very worried here in Ukraine when the exclusion zone was closed for tourists, probably a week before, yeah, Dominic, about a week before.
Some 10 days before,
Yeah, something like 18th of February, I believe.
After they found the pontoon bridge on the Belarus side, crossing the river Pripyat, that is then entering Ukraine. So they found the pontoon bridge, and then I think after just finding the bridge, 2 days after that, they just closed, the Chernobyl zone for tourists, and that was some 10 days before the invasion.
And it was very strict. People who were on multi-day tours were really needed to leave the zone, were asked to leave the zone. So we understood that it was serious. After that, I believe, I can't know for sure, probably Ukrainian military entered that area for extra protection of the body. But still, the first day of the war, it was 21st of February when we all here in Kiev were waking up with explosions, with missile strikes. And the same day, evening exclusion zone was already invaded. It was already under control of Russian troops, unfortunately.
And do you have any idea how they left the zone or what happened during that occupation?
Yeah, now when they left, we have more information about it. We know that the workers of the power plant were kept hostages during the occupation. It was actually from 24th of February till the end of March. I believe the 30th or the 31st of March, Russian troops left that area and left the Kiev suburbs again by the same road. The power plant workers suffered a lot. There was a night shift which arrived to the power plant. They have their train connecting Slavutic, a city of the power plant workers, actually a city built instead of Pripyat, which is commuted with the train, 40 minutes by train, and these people arrived to their shift at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. They came for night, and they expected to go home in the morning, but they stayed there for 3.5 weeks. Then it was told a month-long shift, instead of one night shift. They lived, they slept, they worked at the territory of Chernobyl nuclear power plant. They were controlled by Russian military, but they still needed to operate the power plant. It's not in use, but still they have supply. And with electricity, they have a lot of systems to keep the destroyed force reactor safe under the arch, under the new safe confinements. And we have storages for nuclear waste on the territory of the zone close to the power plant. And all this needs to be under control 24 hours, 7 days a week.
It's not empty. People think that it's just an empty shell. There are systems involved and people do work there.
Yeah, people still work here and people will work there till we have some shelter for the nuclear waste and shelter for the destroyed reactor 4. Of course, it's not so many people as we had before. It was about 9,000 people working for the power plant before decommissioning. Now it's about 1,800 people at the site, but still they necessarily need to be there.
That's still a lot of people.
Yeah, still a lot of people, still a lot of operations, actually.
And I received an email the other day, I think yesterday, that you're planning a humanitarian mission soon.
It's true. It's our big inspiration to go there to help people. We have our dear self-settlers. We have already visited them when the territory was liberated after this invasion as soon as it was possible, but they still need to renew have a new party, new delivery of food and other necessary stuff. Then we have workers of the exclusion zone, Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, not only power plant who still been in Chernobyl. By the way, in Chernobyl, Russian troops did something like headquarters of probably northern part of troops, troops which were going to invade Kiev. So a lot of destroying, everything was looted and destroyed after them, I can say. Then we had a very big humanitarian mission to help workers of the power plant. We did it probably, Dominik, from the end of March or from April. We did it on almost regular.
Yeah, I think we started somewhere in March. Then there was a big delivery on the anniversary day. And actually, we were helping to supply the workers on the shifts because they were not having enough food supply. So we were shipping it from Kiev. That was pretty much in April and May. Now, I mean, the change is that we can get permits or this kind of humanitarian volunteer status for foreigners as well. So with our charity tours or charity expeditions, we can take foreign people with us to help us. So that's basically the big change that will hopefully smoothly happen in September, where we'll take first foreigners back into Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. First of all, to help, so that it's fully humanitarian and fully charitable. So everything that they will bring or that they will pay will go for the needs of the Chernobyl babushkas, the workers at the power plant, or also for the people who are still there, whether that's police or workers of the zone. And of course, we will also try to visit most of the places that are now abandoned, and also visit the places that were destroyed or how to call that by the Russian military, because it was not, to me it was of course a shock that some people are invading a country and then taking flat screen TVs and mattresses from the hotel, or trying to get something from the car, for and sending it to Russia. But the biggest shock was actually the trenches that they have dug in the red forest nearby the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, which was, highly radioactive. The surprise that there is no dosimeter, or there is not even a person who knows where they are, that this is a dangerous place. When the workers were telling us the Russian troops were coming, they were actually having not a real idea what is Chernobyl, what happened there. So this was of a big surprise to me, and this is probably also what we'll be showing in the future to everybody who will be coming. So it's a sad story, but this will be a next story of Chernobyl and another, I would say, a lesson provided to the mankind. So this is what we see for the future. Now it will be humanitarian, and after there will be some peace, hopefully soon. We have no idea when, but one day there will be a peace. Hopefully we can bring also like regular tourists, not just the charitable workers or volunteers who will sign up with us for getting the permit back to the zone.
I was also in shock when I heard about the trenches in the Red Forest, because that's a spot that when I was in the van and we went through the Red Forest, even through, while in the van, the dosimeter was reading a lot of radiation. That was just going through, and to actually stop there and then to start kicking up dust and dirt, that's the last thing you want to do in a radiation zone. It boggles the mind that someone didn't have any clue that this is kind of the last thing they should be doing.
We are kidding here that Russians were not allowed to enter the Chernobyl exclusion zone for a few years, because you probably heard that we have this long-going conflict on the east of Ukraine. Actually, it's like slow-going war, just involving two regions of Ukraine. Totally, we had 25 of them before. That's why our state decided that Russian people, Russian citizens, can't go to potentially dangerous places, which of course includes a Chernobyl nuclear power plant. So now we say Russians couldn't go, and listen to our tours, to our excursions. That's why they didn't know about the red forest. Yeah, they came in, made trenches there.
By the way, back in 2008, I remember Russians were the largest nation visiting Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. So it was like basically thanks to Russians, the tourism in Chernobyl Exclusion started, I would say, back in the 2000s.
Is there a website or is there a place that listeners can go to donate to the charity to help the workers and the babushkas in the zone?
Oh, that would be so kind of you. Actually, we were shocked also in February and March, April, when the people were, just sending us donations or not wanting their money back for their tours, just to, donate it to our team, to Chernobyl workers, to Chernobyl babushkas. So we are trying now to make it more addressable. So also with the charity tours. We would love the people who are coming actually to bring some donations. So we were not expecting like any people to join us in these efforts. But if in case you would like to, I mean, with visiting ChernobylX or getting in touch with our girls at info@chernobylx.com, they will send you a link where you can, via PayPal, donate whatever amount you want. And of course, we will then be in touch with you. What was the outcome? So sending you some pictures, videos, where you see what actually happened with what you were donating. And we always donate 100% of the amount that people are donating. So we are not having like some charity agencies who are having some, some fees or whatever. So we try to always distribute it fairly and 100%, of course.
Great. Thank you. What are some of your favorite stories out of the zone? It can be like people who come, or it can be stories from the zone, like whatever it is. What are some of your favorite stories?
Well, I have tons of stories. I don't know where to start. Everything happened. I am always saying everything happened to me in Chernobyl. I was having a missing tourist. He was from the US, by the way, and he was missing. He wanted to have some pictures from inside of the buildings, which was completely forbidden at that time. So he got lost, and the group was actually very big at that time because we were having a guide sick. And I mean, I was looking for him all over Pripyat at the places I've never been. So really, I think that there were like no people, in months or maybe years. So I was screaming, and looking around. Finally, he got to the checkpoint at the gate or entering the city. There is a checkpoint with soldiers. He got there and they were calling us, if we are looking for a tourist. And we're like, yes, desperately, please, where he is. So he was there. Also, we were, I'm always enjoying the funny stories, like whether those were the stories with looters or stories from eyewitnesses of the Chernobyl accident or what happened after that, the evacuation. And we are having one of my dearest friends who I'm often taking for my tours is Mr. Moskalenko, who was the deputy head of police in Pripyat. And he's still alive, still, full of energy, funny. And actually he was, 200 meters away from the reactor when it blew up, and his skin, his cheek was burned. But he is, joking all the time about the accident, and remembering the good times, during the Soviet Union and what happened afterwards. And this is always leaving me in a surprise that just imagining his life, when, for example, after his shift, when he was coming from the hospital, to ensure that the evacuated city is safe, and after a week when he was meeting his daughter, he couldn't even hug her. He was just saying, stop, because I'm probably contaminated, and now he's having, granddaughters, who can just listen to his story. So this is amazing, and always leaving me with a good vibe when I'm saying goodbye to people like that. All right, enough of my stories. Larochka, you have better, I guess.
Not better, just different, including lost tourists. Of course, my tourist was Chinese. We have not so many of them, but the Chinese group I had, unfortunately, I managed to lose a tourist for a short time. He was found, no worries. But the first story which came to my mind when you asked this question, Shelley, was about a couple of firefighters. They were not my travelers, but I was nearby. So they came to the exclusion with the intention to get married in Pripyat fire station. And we had a very nice guy and guide, bald old man, Sergei. He was a priest for this couple, so near this fire station in Pripyat, they put it some kind of dress, like white dress, white gown for the lady, and some kind of firefighters, I don't know, parade uniform for the man. And Sergei, this bald guy, being a priest, read what they gave him instead of priest, I don't know, and then he was making a ceremony for them, and I had an opportunity to see it a little bit from the side and then ask him for details, but it was amazing. So please, being a tour guide, you can be one day, I don't know, a priest.
And the next day, finding lost tourists.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure no 2 days are the same when you're in the exclusion zone.
Oh, I've been there more than 100 times, and it was always, seeing something new, having some new vibe, learning something new is always different. And when you were talking about the stories now, it popped up in my mind that I'm just living a few houses away from my neighbor who was, I think, 8 or 9 years old when the accident happened, and he was one of the prominent kids sent from Czechoslovakia to Ukraine at that time, and who was there when it happened. So he was in the surroundings, he was in a camp, and he was evacuated. He was, of course, contaminated and everything. By the way, he is super healthy. He's smoking, drinking, but he's super healthy. He says that he was conserved at the time when there was the radiation or something like that. I don't believe that, but I took him twice to the zone, and the second time we found the camp where he was, and that was mind-blowing, his memories coming out, so we were nearly in tears, and he was also nearly in tears when he was just describing what was happening, what he felt like, what was there and there. Whew, that was very strong. That was very strong, and of course, as he is also a person who is having this positive attitude to life, it was hilarious and funny at the end of the day. So we were just laughing, on his stories from the childhood.
Do you take a lot of people back into the zone that had once lived in Pripyat?
Not really. This was really an exception. That was probably the first time I was having somebody, and he's a foreigner, like he is not a Ukrainian, so that's why. But maybe Larochka, you were having some experience with that.
Yeah, amazing story. So lucky to be in this area when the accident happened.
Lucky, like lucky as lucky.
Yeah, lucky.
Air quotes, lucky.
Yeah. I have more such stories, but they are also not so often because we mostly work with foreign tourists. But one morning I arrived to the tour. I saw in my list of travelers before some Ukrainian surnames, Ukrainian names, but people just changing, of course, their locations, their countries. And then it appeared to be a lady with her daughter and her daughter's husband or boyfriend. This lady was living in Pripyat, I don't know, for about probably 9 years or 10 years, for some big period of her life. She was evacuated, then living in Ukraine, then moved to Germany, had a daughter, and now she brought her daughter to show to her daughter this city where she had probably happy moments of her life. And she also felt this tragedy of leaving her home. A lot of people I met, people evacuated from Pripyat in their not so young years, in like when they were adults, when they had their job, when they had their life, in this perfect city, as we call Pripyat. They still have this tragedy of losing their home. This is a place where you can't come back. Yeah, you can do it just with the tour, and it's destroyed. It's not like coming to the house of your parents, for example, where you had childhood, or to some other house just with other people. So we found her apartment Yeah, we managed to do it. She remembered something, some details. And despite it was already forbidden to bring people inside of the building, I let her and her daughter to go. We stayed outside because it was like really a family moment, and because it was forbidden also, we gave them some time, and she really went to her home. She could finally see her home, which she missed for many years. Very touching story. Of course, they were crying. Some of us were crying. Yeah, and they shared a lot of moments. She shared a lot of moments from her life in this city.
Oh, I'm sad just hearing about it. I mean, you really can't go home.
Yeah.
Laura, what's it like being a Chernobyl guide?
It's like going to your favorite traveling every day, or almost every day, with some days off. Yeah, I wake up early, but I'm always motivated that I will go to this nice nature area. I will meet nice people, and I will have an opportunity to share my emotions, impressions, and some knowledge with these people. And also I will listen to some of their stories actually about Chernobyl or about their life. So I enjoy every day. Yeah, of course there are some exceptions, as with every work, when I'm not in, like when I have not enough energy, but mostly I really calm or very motivated, enjoy my work, enjoy meeting people. And when people leave the tour inspired by our passion to the exclusion zone, I feel very satisfied.
I actually have a follow-up now. Who is your typical traveler? Is there a typical traveler?
Oh, it's a very difficult question. I probably would say that people still are very, very different. Yeah, even in what they want to see or to experience or to enjoy. Some will really hunt for radiation. The others need stories. Some of people need to be quiet at the place and feel the atmosphere, like to feel the emotions at the place. Even like for the first hours, sometimes minutes, sometimes hours, people could be speechless. Yeah, they really find themselves in absolutely different place. The only thing which probably unites all these people is interest, to know more about this place and to see more.
And if I were to visit the zone, what should I bring? Like, what kind of attitude should I bring, or what should I bring with me?
Probably on top of everything it's an open mind, to be open for maybe not very traditional view on Cold War, on the previous times, that you might be influenced from the media or from movies that you have seen. And also curiosity, to be like really, really curious, to have this view and this feeling that I want to explore, and explore this building and this thing here, and tell me more about this. So I always enjoy having tourists that are very, very curious, that are giving me hard questions. So I always, if I have no answer for that, I always write it down and try to find out, the answer afterwards, because this is also the way how we as guides are, learning and developing.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and thank you to Dominik and Lara for taking time out of their day to speak to me. Let's hope they stay safe and can continue to provide assistance to those in the exclusion zone. If you would like to help in their humanitarian mission, you can send them an email at info@chernobylx.com. That email address is also on our website and in the show notes. If you would like to know more about our podcast, head on over to mynuclearlife.com. Until next time, I'm Shelley Lesher, and this has been My Nuclear Life.